Hello viewer, thank you for joining us. This is CBA broadcasting to you live from Somaliland's capital, Hargeisa. We have the privilege of hosting Geoffrey from Kenya. Geoffrey, karibu sana.
Asante sana Bwana Eunice.
How are things around? The world is disturbed by the pandemic. The world has almost stopped. How is your experience in Somaliland?
Well, this is something that I think the whole world never expected to happen. And I, being from Kenya, living and working in Somaliland, well, there are quite a number of challenges that we have experienced. But all in all, we have to keep checking on from the news and from everywhere how things are going outside the country, as well as checking out here.
You said you have been working here in Somaliland as well as living in Somaliland. We will get back to that, discussing the potentials of Somaliland and your experience. But talking about the pandemic, the key and most important thing when dealing with a pandemic like this is information, getting the right information. Somaliland's national and official language is Somali, followed by Arabic. I'm not sure if you speak either of the two, but speaking of for other people, we have other people here in Somaliland who are thousands in their numbers. How are you getting information?
Well, what I may say is Kenyans, I'll speak on behalf of the Kenyans living in Somaliland, especially people who are living in Hargeisa, because most of the Kenyans who are working in Somaliland, you'll find them in Hargeisa. So actually what we did is that when the pandemic came on, we actually started a group so that we can be keeping each other informed about what exactly is happening. Most of the information that we get is usually from the internet, because when you look at most of the national TVs in Hargeisa, they speak Somali language, that's half Somali. And I don't know whether there's any that is speaking Arabic, but I only know one that is CBA speak that broadcast in English. But most of the information that we do get is from the internet. You get information from Worldometer, that is John Hopkins. You get that information. Mostly you get from other sources, from Facebook, from WhatsApp, then all that information we get it from the group. So we usually do update each other on the occurrences and what is happening. Yeah.
You update yourself on WhatsApp, making good use of technology as it is. What is your message, for example, to the health ministry? Are they not supposed to put certain channels that will take good care of other people who are part of the Somaliland population but are not speaking any of the official languages?
Well, I think the people who are living in Somaliland, that is in Hargeisa specifically, foreigners, I think the Ministry of Health need to lift up, to step it up a bit. And most likely in terms of information gathering and in terms of information forwarding to the foreigners, because if you look at the current mobile service providers, they have put up a message that whenever you make a call, there's that message that's talking about the COVID-19, but it's specifically on one language. See, it only speaks enough Somali. So if someone doesn't understand, I myself understand a little bit of, let me say, 40% of Somali. I may get a little bit of 1, 2, 3 once and get to understand what exactly they are talking about. But we have quite a big number of people who cannot even have a single word understanding of what exactly they are talking about. Maybe the word coronavirus, they might just understand that they are talking about coronavirus. What I advise the Ministry of Health is that they should step it up a bit in terms of information gathering and in terms of information broadcasting, so that each and every person who is in Somaliland can have an advantage of getting the information. We also put it to the media stations that are broadcasting in English to have maybe an advert, or as well as information to the people who do not understand of Somali. Because you find that the majority, the number of people who are not speaking Somali in Hargeisa is quite a big number. Yes. We have so many foreigners who are living in Hargeisa. We have so many Kenyans, we have so many Ethiopians, we have people from UAE, we have people from Saudi, from Pakistan, quite a big number of people who do not understand of Somali.
As well as many Somalis who themselves don't speak.
Exactly. I have so many friends who have Somali and yet they don't understand Somali fully. Actually, most of the people that I know from Kenya, from other places who have Somalis, they came actually to learn Somali language here. Now you can imagine, even themselves, they cannot be able to understand what exactly is being talked about.
Yes, I understand, because I have the experience of talking to so many people who have the Somali identity, but it's very hard for them speaking the Somali language. But still remaining on the pandemic and its effect on people, it has not affected me personally, because I left Nairobi towards the end of February, early March for Hargeisa. That was when it didn't pick up. The virus did not pick up actually in Africa. It was still in Europe. But you personally, there are people maybe who had plans that you know, or even yourself, of going, for example, to Kenya. Kenya Airways has stopped its flights to Mogadishu. If you were to connect through Mogadishu, Ethiopian Airlines no longer goes to Nairobi. How has it affected Kenyans, as someone who knows about Kenyans very much here around?
Actually, I was in Kenya in the month of January. The whole of last year I was here. Okay. I left Hargeisa around the early days of January, around date 5. I went to Nairobi. I stayed in Nairobi. My plans was to stay in Nairobi for at least maybe 2 weeks and then I come back. But I overstayed there for about 3 weeks. Early February, I came back. That was the time that the pandemic was just starting. It was still speculations. People are not talking much about it. It was still the Chinese virus, maybe. Sorry to use that word. But when I came over here, when I was traveling through Ethiopia and then to Hargeisa, Igali International Airport, the first thing that the airport staff were doing is to do that temperature test. Well, still didn't seem too much of a pandemic. There was still some speculation that this disease might be affecting many people, but there was not that much worry. But coming in here, staying over here, then things just started changing, and then people really understood that this is a pandemic, really. That's when the start of March. That's when the whole world now started the lockdown. Yeah. Countries moving now towards realizing that this is really a pandemic.
Why do you think it took long for many African countries to accept that this pandemic is real? You know, even not African countries, even perhaps the United States of America, the leading global power itself, it didn't take actions almost immediately.
Well, myself, I'm usually too much into the internet. And when I read about what exactly, I'll talk about the African people. I read about somewhere in USA, United States of America, and Africa itself. I remember when the disease went to Europe, to China, when the first cases were, when everyone who used to talk about let's stand with Italy, let's stand with Italy. It just looked like it's only the white people that will get the disease. And actually, if you look at the United States, if you look at the results in the United States, most of the people who got the disease are African Americans, because they had that story of this disease can only affect the white people, which was a really bad misconception. In fact, even in our people, in Africa, in Kenya, people used to say, this disease cannot get any African. Africans are so hard, they cannot get this disease. We are used to these small diseases. We are used to pandemic, we are used to Ebola, we are used to other diseases, we are used to malaria. In fact, even those people who get malaria cannot get COVID-19, which is a very wrong mentality that really affected the African countries in a way that people just dragged behind, and they did not see the essence of having, controlling the disease or maybe getting the country into a lockdown. Because if I look at when the disease was moving away from now China, from Wuhan to Europe, from Europe to Africa, Europe to, or maybe China to United States. If you look at the trend, if African countries realize that this is a pandemic, I think we could have controlled the disease before it got to Africa. If right measures were taken in early stages, maybe around the end of February or maybe early March.
Geoffrey, there have been misconceptions around in Africa on ways of treatment and who doesn't get COVID-19, from Rwanda, DRC, Congo to Madagascar. Which is the funniest story that you have had that treats maybe COVID-19 or people who cannot get COVID-19?
Well, there are quite a number of myths that people have been coming up with, raging. I think in the whole world, people have been having different myths about coronavirus or this COVID-19. You find people saying that teenagers will not get COVID-19 because the immunity is very high. But even you look at the record, there are still people within the ages of the teenage age, 14, 15, 16, up to 25 years. They are still getting coronavirus. They are also dying. You also hear people say that this disease is only for the old people. It's only for the people within the age of 70 to 80, 90. See, that's quite a different myth. You find people saying that if you drink bleach, it's like jik. If you take bleach, you're not going to get coronavirus. That's quite a very funny myth. Yes. You hear people saying that if you take that is alcohol sanitizer, you wash your body with alcohol, you're not going to get COVID-19. Yes. COVID-19 is not spread through the skin. No, it's only spread through the open spaces, that is the mouth, the nose, yes, the ears, or the eyes. You see? Yes. You hear people saying that if you go to dirty places, you'll get COVID-19 because you'll get maybe just like the mosquitoes and the feces and those. and
it's very sad that Donald J. Trump led the world in telling people that you can inject yourself with this Dettol and Jig, as you said. It's very sad that global leaders, though he came out and said he was saying that sarcastically, but by the time he said that, the US has recorded quite a number of people who have injected themselves with those disinfectants.
Well, if you look at, if you do an analysis of COVID-19, this is a viral disease. It's not a bacterial disease. Dettol is a bacterial disinfectant. If you look at, like in Kenya, the day they started the lockdown, where the president announced that there will be a 21 days lockdown to control the spread of the virus. People ran to the supermarkets. Even here in Somaliland, I've seen people running to the supermarkets, buying Dettols, and you quite find very few Dettol remaining in the shops. And then people go use Dettol, they sanitize everything with Dettol. To be honest, Dettol is a bacterial disinfectant. I'm not a doctor myself, but I think from the internet you can, yes, see exactly what the doctors have been advising on what remedies or which are the best disinfectants for the virus.
And CBA has been carrying out awareness and guidelines to our audiences, telling them about the latest statistics on COVID-19 as well as preparedness. And all that the world is waiting for now is the vaccine to come out. I think there are trials all over the world. In Africa, Senegal is doing quite a very amazing job. They're working towards getting a vaccine. Rwanda, I think, is doing the same. South Africa is working, which is something good that at least 3 African countries are working towards joining the global power, joining Germany, Japan, China, and the United States, as well as Britain, in getting vaccine for COVID-19. Lastly, Geoffrey, you have been in Somaliland for how long? Let's leave the pandemic for quite a while and discuss your life here in Somalia. For how long have you been here?
I came in Somaliland during the end of 2016. November 2017, let me be specific.
So you have been here for quite a while?
I've been here for maybe, let's say, this is my 4th year in Somaliland. And to be honest, I didn't know much about Somaliland before I came here. But my friends, I had some 2 or 3 friends who are working here. And so when I came to Somaliland, my friend who was called Guled, and he told me Somaliland is a very good place. I went directly to the internet, Googled, searched what is Somaliland, who are those people who live there, how is the security there, how is the country. Well, I came over here was working in Berbera for a number of months. Well, it was a little bit hot. It was during the summer. January was a bit too cold. February, March. Then by the time we get to May, it was a little bit very hot. Then I came back to Hargeisa. I'll say Somaliland is quite a good place to be. From the time that I've stayed here, I've seen quite a difference compared to what people think of Somaliland and the reality in Somaliland, to be specific in Hargeisa.
I think the experience has been the same, though I speak the local language, but I'm not originally as well from here. I am from Kenya. We come from the same place, and I think misconceptions are out there. The same way people have myths about COVID-19, people also have myths about Somaliland. But one thing that I've loved myself is its heritage, its history, having gone through its ruined towns that have been here for more than 9,000 years ago. That tells you this is one of the most and oldest places we have in here. Thank you very much, Geoffrey, for speaking to us. My producer tells me that our time on air is coming to an end. I'm very glad and we are very happy to have hosted you today. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
That was Geoffrey Kinyua, who was speaking to us on the latest about awareness among foreigners and Kenyans here in Somaliland on COVID-19. Thank you very much, viewer, for joining us. My name is Ciidanka. Until we meet again, have a lovely time and enjoy the rest of your viewing.